Okay, sir. Start, sir.
Good afternoon to all my dear students, friends.
Shreya.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Shreya Patania. Hello.
Hello, students. Can you introduce yourself, please?
వాళ్ళు ఎవరు లైన్లో రావట్లేదు సార్. సరే సార్, మనం గానిచ్చేద్దాం.
వాళ్ళు ఆన్ చేసుకొని పక్కన పెట్టేటట్టు ఉంది. నాకు డౌట్, కొంతమంది మా స్టూడెంట్స్ అట్లా చేస్తుంటారు.
ఇక్కడ కూడా అదే జరుగుతుంటుంది సార్. సరే, మనం ఇంకా రికార్డ్ చేస్తాము, వాళ్ళకి రికార్డింగ్ పంపించేస్తాం.
అంతేలే సార్.
అంతే సార్.
ఓకే సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
కంటిన్యూ సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ. టుడే
మధ్యలో మనకి బ్రేక్ 4 o'clock అట్లా కావాలని తీసుకుంటారు, 10 minutes అట్లా.
అట్లా థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
నో ప్రాబ్లం.
అదే 5 minutes 1 minute ఏం తీసుకుంటాం లేదు, నేను అట్లా కంటిన్యూ చేసేస్తుంటాను.
అదే చూసాను నేను చాలాసేపు అలా కంటిన్యూ చేసి కనీసం వాటర్ అన్న తాగాలి మధ్యలో.
సరే సార్.
4కి కావాలంటే ఒక 10 minutes అలా బ్రేక్ తీసుకుని మళ్ళీ మొదలు పెట్టండి సార్.
అట్లే థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
అవసరం లేదనుకుంటే కంటిన్యూ చేయండి, అది మీ ఇష్టం.
ఓకే సార్. అది స్టూడెంట్స్ రెస్పాండ్ అయితే అట్లే కంటిన్యూ చేస్తాము, లేదంటే ఒక 10 minutes తీసుకుంటాం.
అలాగే సార్.
ఎందుకంటే మనం ఊరికే స్ట్రెయిన్ అవడమే తప్ప ఆడ వినడం లేదనే ఫీలింగ్ వస్తాము.
అవును. అంటే మనం ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడు పర్పస్ ఏంటంటే మేము ఈ వినకపోయినా ఇంక మనం రికార్డ్ చేస్తే ఇంక వాళ్ళకి చేస్తే వాళ్ళు ఖాళీ ఉన్నప్పుడు వింటారులే అనేటువంటి యాటిట్యూడ్ ఉంది.
ఓకే సార్.
సరే సార్. ఓకే సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
So dear student friends, today we have to learn more principles of our Gandhi and also his philosophy. The word Hindu, it is derived from the word Sindhu, the main river in undivided India. So the inhabitants of river banks were called Hindus in Parsi language, and the religion followed by them is known as Hinduism. So compared to Semitic religions, Hinduism is diverse, multifaceted religion, which can be easily described as a way of everybody life. So there is some sources to our Hinduism. So 3 works in Sanskrit refer to this considered as to be a authoritative works for Hinduism: Bible for Christianity, Quran for the Muslims. So especially first Vedas and especially Upanishads, which come at the end of Vedas, both literally and as essence. The authorship of Vedas is not known and they are considered. The meaning is they were not composed by any man, but inherited by a divine transmission. So Vedas also contain, in addition to Upanishads, mantras, Brahmans dealing with ritualistic aspects. So these are all some of the sources for Hinduism. Authoritative work is Brahma Sutra, which is said to have been authored by Bhadrayana Vyasa. It contains aphorisms. So authoritative work is Bhagavad Gita, main, which is literally a part of the great epic Mahabharata. The author is Bhadrayana Vyasa. So he is the generally formed the dialogue between Krishna, whom the Indian tradition considers to be the Godhead, and Arjuna, so the warrior prince. This work, whose title means Song Divine, has inspired many, including Gandhi also. Smriti and Dharma. So Dharma Shastra, it gives the rules to follow the Dharma. Inka Puranas. In addition, 3 authoritative works. There are 18 Puranas, ancient treatises of which Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata Purana is famous. It contains the accounts of the God's 10 incarnations, which includes Krishna's incarnation. Epics. There are 2 epics, Ramayana, Tale of Rama, and Mahabharata. So the latter contains within it the Bhagavad Gita, one of 3 authorities. The epics are widely read and incident in it are quoted were some of the examples. So there are 6 schools of philosophy known as darshanas. Darshana means an aid to see. They are Nyaya, Vaishika, Samkhya, Yoga, so Vedanta. So they are divided into 2 groups, one material and another. This is there are commentaries on those darshanas which has been written in the form of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra in the work one of the darshanas yoga. So Varna system. So Varnasrama, it is one of the concept of stage of life depending on one's vocation. This is also found in Dharma Shastras. The concept is that each man should follow a vocation as per his varna, literally meaning color, which are 4 in number, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. Varna is supposed to be based on one kind of work one does, the skill, the karma. So based on Varna is not ordained by birth as per Dharma Shastras. For example, agricultural and animal husbandry could be practiced by people of all the 4 Varnas without any restrictions. In the time of distress, people could follow outside their Varna with some restrictions. So, ashrama. Ashrama refers to one's stage in life. There are 4 ashramas, Brahmacharya and Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. So, Brahmacharya, Grihastha and Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, these are all the 4 ashrama dharmas. First is the learning stage, second the householder stage, third after the completion of householder's duty proceedings to the forest for tapasya, that means meditation, or realization of self, and the final stage is freeing oneself from all the social bondage. This is the ashram. Inka Purushartha. Purushartha concept is also in the Dharma Shastra, and it means that man or woman has to do a deed which results in a worthy act. The 4 Purusharthas are Dharma, Artha, Karma, and Moksha. Vaishya is of the opinion that both Artha, wealth, and Karma, that means desire, both have to be practiced to achieve Dharma, righteousness in our life. Moksha is the salvation from the cycle of births and deaths, and it is the last Purushartha. Thus, it was ordained that a man should work to achieve these goals all the time. So, Hinduism with Gandhi. Gandhi was a strong believer in Hinduism, which he called the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal religion. He wrote, Hinduism of my conception is no narrow creed. It is a grand evolutionary process as ancient as time and embraces the teachings of Zoroaster, Moses, Christ, Muhammad, Nanak, and other prophets. I could name them. He quotes a verse from Manusmriti which translates as follows: Know that the true religion is one which the wise and the good and those who are ever free from passion and hate follow, and which appeals to hate heart. Gandhi defined Hindu in Yoga India according to who believes in God, immortality of the soul, transmigration, law of karma, moksha, and one who practices truth and ahimsa in daily life, cow protection in its widest sense, tries to act according to the laws of Varnasrama. So Gandhi had read the classic early in life from 1907 onwards, but his intense study of the scriptures happened when he was in the Yerawada jail near Pune from March 1922 to February 1924. His jail diary indicates that the read about 150 books, most of which were classic, including scriptures. At that time, he was 54 years old, young enough to accept and old enough to understand. So, the characters in the epics did have influence on him. Harishchandra captures his heart. Her, his principled effort to keep his word. Gandhiji asks, why not everyone should be truthful like Harishchandra? He also quotes the examples of Rama and Pandavas who kept their word by undergoing all difficulties. He cites the examples of Prahalada, Dhruva, Sravana, who gave up all worldly comforts for the sake of various principles. Of Mahabharata, Gandhi says that it is like a rich diamond mine, from which the deeper you dig, the more diamonds you find. He was of the opinion that the burden of Ramayana and Mahabharata is to teach ahimsa. He has repeatedly said that both Ramayana and Mahabharata tell the story of the victory of the good over evil. In the issue of Navajivan in 1922, Gandhi declared that he is a Sanatani Hindu or Hindu as a ordained by scriptures. At that time, a movement against Orthodox Hinduism was building up through Brahmo Samaj and Pratana Samaj. Gandhi had no hesitation in declaring that he is a Sanatani Hindu. He states that he possesses in some measures the qualities described in Narasimha Mehta's son, Vaishnavas. Therefore, I hesitate to call myself with all firmness, truly, humbly, a strict Sanatana Hindu, and a Vaishnava. At the same time, Gandhi's views were rebellious. He says that he has understood the Shastras from the view of Dharma. He says that it is possible to attain moksha, salvation, without reading the Vedas. He also says that the Shastras are not above reason and any Shastra, which reason cannot follow, can be rejected. So Gandhi has his own views on Varnasrama. He said that he believed that there are no more than four Varnas. He believed that one acquired the caste by birth, and even though one acquires the qualities and character of another, the body does not cease to belong to his Varna. He expressed his desire to cleanse the Hinduism of the caste distinctions that kept in it. He held that Hinduism has sinned by giving sanction to untouchability. Gandhi did not formally study the Upanishads, but many Upanishads were under his regular study and reference. In the ashram prayers, part of Upanishad, which when translated reads as follows, was recited every day. So he founded, which is the based on Dharma, which is the refer says that everything is founded on Dharma, the highest good that drives away evil, and Satya and Ahimsa are traditionally identified with Dharma. The cosmic law that governs the human conduct had found influence on him. Jainism was and basic doctrines. Jainism, like Buddhism, started as a Protestant religion against the ritualistic Hinduism. It claims great antiquity, and it is said that the earliest monk and a teacher died 84,000 years before Mahavira, the last Tirthankara, as the guru of ancient tradition in the Jain religion is known. Mahavira was a contemporary of Buddha, but is not considered the founder of the religion. But the first teacher is said to be Rishabha, and Mahavira is said to have been preceded by Parsva, the line of 24 Tirthankars. Even though Jainism did not spread outside India, as it did not have preachers who could go overseas to spread the religion the world. So it had profound influence on life in India. It can be said that vegetarianism became the most accepted way of life in India. Maybe due to this religion also, emphasis on morals and ethics received a boost as this religion had ethics as its main plan and produced vast literature in all the languages upholding the ethic of mortality and austerity. Schools of Jainism. There are two schools within Jain religion, one being Digambara, meaning space clad, or wearing no clothes. They are called as the Digambara. And the other, Svetambara, meaning white robe. So there are no major doctrine differences between the two cults, except for small differences like writing down the scriptures and not writing them. Also, Digambaras, the more orthodox of the two schools, maintain that perfect saints like Tirthankars live without food and that a monk who owns any property or wears clothes cannot attain moksha. Nobody can attain the moksha, but women cannot attain moksha, salvation. Later, after the two sets separated, about 84 different schools of Jainism came into existence, called Gachas. They differed from one another only in minute details of conduct. Both the schools of Jainism have preserved their separate line of succession of teachers from Mahavira downwards. But for this, the relations between the two groups have been peaceful and both have prospered due to their faith. Ahimsa. The doctrine of non-violence, non-injury, non-killing is a major concept in the Jain philosophy. The concept is extended to such an extent that there should be no violence even against an enemy. Of Mahavira, the sutra says, always well guarded. Be borne the pains caused by grass, cold, fire, flies, and gnats. In his travel, when the dogs bit him, when he was struck with a stick, when they cut his flesh, he endured them all undisturbed, proceeded on his way to nirvana. Ahimsa extends to all forms of life. It is the first among the five vows taught by Mahavira. A man should neither kill living beings nor help others to do it. Hence, as a precautionary measure, one should meditate on five things: carefulness in speech, carefulness of mind in walking, in lifting and laying down things, and truly seeing one's food and drink. Ahimsa produces the karma that liberates one from the karmic elements that make one get stuck in the cycle of birth and death. The principle of ahimsa is not just become out of compassion for the fellow creatures, but causes karma that leads to the freedom from bondage. Jainism is derived by vows and three jewels to get over the karma that lands one in the cycle of births and deaths. Apart from the first vow, ahimsa, that means non-violence. The second one is satya, that means truthfulness. The third is asteya, the non-stealing. And fourth one is brahmacharya, abounding lust for all kinds of things. And the last is aparigraha, non-greed, non-attachment. So the five vows are to be practiced according to the status of the individual. For a monk, the vows are very strict and flexible for a householder. The strict practice is referred to the as Mahavrata, and a relaxed interpretation of the rule for a householder is called Anuvrata. So for the householders, Brahmacharya means monogamy. So the three jewels are Samyak Darshana, right faith, Samyak Jnana, right knowledge, and Samyak Charita, right character. A monk or a householder has to practice all the three jewels and should not stay away from them to escape from the karma that leads to bondage. Gandhi and Jainism. Gandhi acknowledges the influence of Jainism in his upbringing and subsequent career. His entire outlook is molded by Jainism. Porbandar, where he was born, and the state of Gujarat, where he received his early education as a significant Jain population. The first influence on Gandhi was that of his mother, who took up fasting for self purification. Even though they were not Jains, fasting was a part of her life, and this purification, even though influenced the children profoundly. Even later, when he undertook fasting for self-purification. The fasting of his mother, which was a regular affair, it was at the back of his mind. His mother would take up a kind of fasting where she would not eat without seeing the sun. The children would line up outside to spot the sun on a cloudy day, and when they spotted him, would call out the mother to see. Gandhi recalls that by the time she came out, the sun would disappointing all the children. Fasting, which is essentially an all religious practice. He acquired the flavor of Jainism in Gujarat, and it had influence on Gandhi, just as the Jain tenets preach fasting for self-purification. Gandhi would also do it for the same purpose and not to pressure or influence others. So Gandhiji also followed, enjoyed by the Jainism. So he did not accept people calling him an ascetic. His concept of simple living and high thinking is one of prescribed by the religion. For the inmates of Sabarmati Ashrama, he prescribed 11 vows, out of which many are vows of the Jainism. So there are 11 vows that were prescribed to the residents of the Sabarmati Ashramam. The first 5 vows of truth, non-violence, non-stealing, brahmacharya, and non-possession were extended to suit the requirements of the ashrama. The first 5 are the Jainism. So he said that of all them are interrelated, and the violation of any one of them would lead to the total violation of the entire code of conduct of the ashrama. So ahimsa for Gandhi was not just a means or a way, but a creed and a religion, a philosophy of life. When the civil disobedience movement turned violent in a village called Chauri Chaura, Gandhi withdrew the entire movement, stating that the people were not ready for the principle of non-violence and that the movement has to be resumed after the country was ready for that. He writes, non-violence is a spiritual food we have to take continually. There is no thing as satiation. Gandhi defined non-violence in different contexts and circumstances, and some of them are inspired by the Jain thought. For non-violence is a law of suffering, not a weapon of the weak, soul force, an attribute of the soul. As long as physical existence is there, goodwill towards all life, not being violent even to snakes, scorpions, and other poisonous creatures also. Gandhi, the Gandhi did not take any extreme stand on any issue. We may say that it is the result of inherent Jain tenet which does not take a rigid stand on any issue. He was very much like the doctrine of manyness of reality. It is this doctrine which has taught me to judge a Muslim from his point of view and a Christian from his point of view. Formerly, I used to resent the ignorance of many opponents. Today, I love them because I am gifted with the eye to see myself as others see me, and vice versa. I want to take the whole world in the embrace of my life. Gandhiji theory of karma also comes close to the Jain perceptions. Jainism, karma is both the cause and the effect. Karma is a cause for getting the past corrected and also necessary for future so that good deeds lead to good happenings in future. As for the belief of Gandhi, Gandhi's adherence to the tenet of ahimsa is legendary, and his non-violent resistance attracted the world attention and brought in many practitioners who, by following the principles, brought about dramatic changes in their society. Buddhism, Four Noble Truths, and the Eightfold Path. The life and time of Buddha, the 7th and 6th century before Christ, were a time of this, according to the Indian philosophy. There were at least three currents of thought. Currents of thoughts. The first was that of the sacrificial karma, and by the force of magical rites, one could achieve his desire. The second was that of Upanishads, by which the self realization was the ultimate goal, and everything else was unimportant. The third was the nihilist school of thought, which propagated that there was no law, no abiding reality, and everything comes to being by some unknown fate. At such time, Buddha was born. Buddha was born near Kapilavastu, a small town north of Banaras in Nepal, in 563 BC. His father, a king of Sakya tribe, named his son as Siddhartha, the wish fulfilling one. So one day the sages warned his father that his son would become a ruler or a mendicant. His surrender him great luxury. His father surrender is as a great luxurious life, that he is not affected by the day-to-day life of the common people. One day, traveling through the city, Siddhartha first saw a man crippled by old age. Then after that, he saw a man rendered helpless by fever. Then a corpse being carried to the cremation ground. And finally, a wandering mendicant with calm and serenity composure. Seeing all these, he was moved so much that he decided to forsake all his luxuries and seek the truth. He returned to the palace and had a look at his wife and son for the last time and set out on his great renunciation that every night. He entered the forest for meditation, hoping to get enlightenment. He spent 6 years in penance, but with no results. Near Bodh Gaya, he made 5 cities. Soon he realized that they could not help him and set out to attain enlightenment through meditation. For 7 weeks, he sat under a apple tree. And according to legend, evil forces try to dissuade him from his goal. Determined, he carried on, and the end of 7th week, he arrived at the much sought enlightenment. Then he became the Buddha. He enlightened one and the exalted one. So his enlightenment occurred around 528 BC. His first disciples were the five ascetics. Thus, we began the Sangha, the Buddhist ascetic order, for the next 40 years. He traveled and preached, gathering more and more followers. In his 18th year, when he was arrived at the much sought enlightenment, then he became the Buddha, the enlightened one and the exalted one. So, journeying, he was more and more powerful in his 18th year when he was journeying to Nagar with his disciples. He realized that his end was near as he suffered from food poisoning. All the followers gathered and Buddha preached his last sermon and told them to work for their deliverance and attain nirvana. Thereafter, he gave up his worldly body and remained in the world as source of enlightenment. Early Buddhist literature, the early Buddhist literature is in Pali language and consists of three different collections. The first is called the Sutta that relates to the doctrines. The second is Vinaya relating to the discipline of monks. And the third is Abhidhamma which has the same subject as Sutta but has dealt with it in a more theoretical and technical manner. Sects of Buddhism. There are two sects in Buddhism by name Hinayana and Mahayana. Hinayana means a smaller vehicle and the Mahayana means bigger vehicle. Hina small, Mahayana big. So, whereas the ultimate goal of the Mahayana adherent is not only seek his own salvation, but also to seek the salvation of all beings. The Hinayana goal was lower, hence the instruction he received, the efforts he made to achieve salvation was lower than what a Mahayana adherent would be accepted to do. The Hinayana adherent could achieve salvation in three lives, and the Mahayana adherent had to go and to achieve his own salvation. And the salvation of all beings, since the goals are different in matter and substance, the sects get the names accordingly. Four notable truths. Buddha's teaching had four notable truths. There is suffering in the world. Dukkha. Suffering means dukkha. The suffering has a cause. The suffering can be overcome by removing the cause of suffering. The eightfold path to salvation is the means of overcoming suffering. So, suffering is universal and no one is exempted from sorrow and disappointment. The second principle clearly indicates that there are specific causes of suffering, and Buddha declared that the desires are the great causes of suffering. Cravings for wealth, power, fame, and material things, thinking that they would bring happiness, are the root cause. instead of bringing happiness, craving stimulates greed, jealousy, and anger that cause violence. The only way to get away from suffering was to move away from desire. So, the third truth, based on the cause and effect relation, states that suffering can be made no cease by removing the cause of suffering. Buddha stated, there is a determinable solution as well as the cause. Just as an effect is caused due to a prior event, it can be overcome by subsequent act to remove the cause. The truth, noble truth, indicates that suffering can be overcome by following the eightfold path, which is interrelated. The eightfold path is as follows: right views. Truth should be separated from the falsehood, right from the wrong, and immortality from the death. When the right view is grasped, one realizes the rightness of the four notable truths, four noble truths. Right resolves second one. After knowing the truth, one should resolve to practice it. He should move steadfastly in the direction of the truth he has discovered, taking a step in the right direction. He is one step nearer to the goal. Third one, right speech. The third step is right speech. The Buddhist text Dhammapada says, if a man speaks or acts with evil thought, evil will follow, like the wheel following the foot of the ox that draws carriage. In his sermon on abuse, Buddha underlines the importance of not slandering or verifying another. The fourth one, right conduct. The fourth step is the right conduct. Thinking and talking are incomplete without action. Right solution and right speech should lead to the right conduct. So, the five important principles for right conduct are abstaining from destroying life, from theft, fornication, lying, and drunkenness. The fifth one, right livelihood. The fifth step is the right livelihood as it enjoins one to earn the livelihood by honest means. A living can be earned without harming others. Any the sixth one, right effort. The sixth step is the right effort. Continuous effort is needed to reach one's goal, and evil thoughts have to be banished, and right ones have to be adopted. Seventh one, right mindfulness. The seventh step is the right mindfulness. The quality of thought determines the person's life, and Buddha says, just as the rain breaks through an ill thatched house, so passion will break through an unreflecting, unreflecting mind. Unreflecting mind. Mind is the source of bliss or corruption. The eighth one is the right concentration. The eighth step is the right concentration, an intense form of right mindedness. Right concentration separates the good from the evil and the truth from falsehood. It perfects one's wisdom and virtue. So the four noble truths provide both the goal and means of reaching it. The eightfold path was described by Buddha as the middle path, a path between indulgence and mortification. He said that the truths are not divinely revealed, but are product of reason and experience. They allow one to be in line with dharma, righteousness, and view the reality in terms of karma and based on the doctrine of anicca, the impermanence. Impermanence. So Gandhi and Buddhism, the Gandhi considered all the great religious leaders as great teachers. He says Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad, they were all warriors of peace in their own state. We have to reach the heritage left by these world teachers. Gautama himself, when he saw oppression, injustice, and death around him, and when he saw darkness in front of him, at the back of him, and on each side of him, went out the wilderness and remained there fasting and praying in search of light. So, some, it is my deliberate opinion, he says, Gautama was himself a Hindu of Hindus. He was saturated with the best that was in Hinduism, and he gave life to some of the teachings that were buried in Vedas and also which were overgrown with weeds. Buddha never rejected Hinduism, but he broadened its base. He gave it a new life and a new interpretation. His whole soul rose in indignation against the belief that a being called God required for his satisfaction the living blood of animals in order that he might be pleased animals who were his own creation. He therefore reinstated God in the right place and dethroned the usurper. So Hinduism very often has been described as a way of life rather than a one of the religion. So it encompasses schools from atheism to polytheism and has six schools of philosophy. Pluralism is an essential feature of this religion. The three authorities of Hinduism has been commented upon, written about by all the eminent teachers, theoreticians of various schools of Vedanta philosophy. Gandhi was proud to be a Hindu, but questioned many a practice contained in these codes. He felt that many laws were inserted subsequently without authority and wanted everything to be examined in the light of social well being. Gandhi was influenced by the Jain concept of metaphysics, philosophy, and cosmology, and its main tenet, non-violence, which had to be practiced even under extreme circumstances. The principles of which had to be practiced even under extreme circumstances influenced Gandhi in Buddhism Gandhi was impressed by the message of compassion given by Buddha and the four noble truths and the eightfold path to nirvana. So, when we studied about all these, it has a lot relations regarding to all religions. As an Hindu, he maintained the relations and into all religions. Next block. Gandhi's views on human nature, Manav Swabham. Gandhi approaches to understanding human nature. He studied philosophies of India before he formed his own view of human nature. He had early acquaintance with Vaishnavism and Jainism. His admiration for the author of the Vaishnava Jana, Narasimha Mehta, is well known. Many of his father's colleagues were Jains, Christians, Muslims, and Pharisees from early days. He had a curiosity about religions and started first to understand them. As he reached his adulthood, he began a systematic study and in course of time was well acquainted with all the religions practiced in India. Gandhi's main tenet of thinking on human nature comes from Vedanta, especially the Advaita philosophy of Sankara. Gandhi holds Sankara in high esteem. He says that there is a hardly anything in the world's literature to surpass Sankara's rationalism and calls him a prince among reasoners. He has declared in no uncertain terms that he is the follower of Advaita, school of Vedanta. He believed that each soul is a part of the universal soul, and each person becomes a part of the universal soul by ennobling himself. What though we have many bodies? We have but one soul. He always quoted that Muslim thought man is not God, but neither is he different from the light, that means spark of God. This belief of Gandhi in the philosophy of Advaita, that is non dualism, made him see the entire humanity as part of the universe and each individual as a microscope of the. This is Advaita concept of the individual soul. Jivitam, individual soul means Jivitam, and the universal soul, Paramatma, and the former being an indivisible part of the latter. According to this school, when ignorance, avidya, goes away, the individual soul, Jivatma, merges with the supreme soul, Paramatma, and the individual soul will not a separate identity and becomes one with the Paramatma. So, an important corollary of this idea is the collective gain or loss of the entire humanity due to the good or bad that happens to it. If an individual does something good, it increases the welfare of the entire humanity, not of the individual alone. Similarly, a wrong done by an individual not only affects the wrongdoer, but the whole community is affected by this. So Gandhi saw the entire society or the entire universe as a cumulative result of the karma it had undergone, and the future as the cumulative karma likely to accumulate. A sum total of all individual karma. Spirit. Gandhi believed that the spirit of man would shape the environment around him, and he does not give so much interpretation to matter. This approach is in line with Eastern thinkers, where the disclosures relating to spirit are dominant, and self realization and salvation are important results to be achieved. Unlike the matter based philosophers, where the economic good is to be achieved for social well being, Marx comes under severe criticism from Gandhi. He said, if I have an awareness of that living principle within me, no one can fetter mine. The body might be destroyed, the spirit will proclaim its freedom. This, to me, is not a theory, it is a fact of experience. Gandhi emphasized the principle that man does not live by bread alone. When he criticized Marx for his concepts, he said that what was good about Marxism was its concern for the poor, but the concept was not exclusive to it, he wrote. He appreciated Marxism to the extent that it addressed the problems of all the working class throughout the world. But Gandhi did not give credit to Marx for this concept, and he said many other thinkers have also made similar approaches, even though he gave credit to Marx for his dynamism and empathy for the working class. So he explicitly rejected his concept. Human nature, a historical perspective. Gandhi did not have pessimistic view of history. In 1922, he wrote, "History is more a record of wonderful revolutions than of the so-called ordered progress." Even though his concept of history was hopeful and universal, he did not see the darker side of history. To clarify, he firmly believed that God has a scheme for everything in this world, and not everything works according to his scheme. His concept of history was based on his belief in the karma theory, which states that man moves in the directions of his karma. An old saying in Sanskrit says that karma will determine the way in which man travels, just as the digger of the well travels in a direction different from that of builder of a man's. There is a divine purpose, he thought, and everything which does not regard to this divine purpose perishes. He gave the examples of Napoleon Bonaparte, who, after conquering major wars had to spend the last days of his life as a prisoner in Saint Helena. He also cites the example of Kaiser of Russia, who was reduced to insignificancy by the end of his career. But Gandhi believed that individuals played an important role in the making of history. Supposing Hitler were to die today, it would be after the whole course of current history. He declared in 1942, however, his optimistic view of the world lead him to say, human society is a ceaseless growth and unfoldment in terms of spirituality. So Gandhi rejected the unilinear view of history. For him, history was neither an linear but a spiral like movement which establishes the supremacy of spirit over matter within the parameters of karma. The low ethical causation, according to Raghavan Iyer, Gandhi said, life is not one straight road. There are so many complexities in it. It is not like a train which once started keeps running. So Gandhi's concept of man, his views on human nature started emerging from the days he started his legal practice in England. At the foundation of his thinking is his upbringing, early influences of his home, and understanding, schooling, and the various books and journals he had to read through his life. His reading includes the religious texts of all religions practiced in India and various thinkers like Tolstoy, Ruskin, and many others, even though he read all the ancient texts and scriptures. He had the courage not to accept many ideas which were contrary to his conviction. Gandhi claimed in 1921 to be a fairly accurate student of human nature. He claimed that he is the vivisector of my feelings. I have discovered that man is superior to the system, he propounds. He said that man can reach his higher status among the living beings. And also, vital point of differences between the brute and the human. Gandhiji believed in obedience to all the call of consciousness. He said that the consciousness has to be followed. Even in the face of all adversities, he said, when you have to obey a call which is the highest of all, that is the voice of consciousness, even though such obedience, the state to which you may belong, this obedience is the law of our being. So Gandhi referred many times to his inner voice and the call of the inner voice. But inner voice from God needed to be quitted. But with the consciousness he felt that the inner voice from the God or devil, or both are wrestling in the human breast. This line is similarly to the line of the philosophers, to the ignorance and the error lead to passion and desire, which prevent Gandhi adopted states that the individual soul is prevented from becoming a part of the universal soul due to ignorance and lack of proper knowledge, which is termed as avidya. Only when the avidya goes away, man is freed from the bondage of ignorance and becomes an indivisible part of the universal soul. After 10 minutes, I will continue, please. Please take rest for 10 minutes.